This is my BMW 135i, and the other day I was out driving this car, and in true BMW fashion, it decided to go wrong. I've pretty much rebuilt this car from the ground up. If you remember in the last video, then what we did is we remapped this car off my phone. All was going so well until suddenly this car developed a major fault and it started misfiring. Since then, this car has been an absolute nightmare and it's thrown me all over the place. Today we're going to be trying to solve that issue. The issue then isn't actually down to the engine itself, thankfully, so I must have done something right here. What I've had to do then is basically take all this stuff off to get the ECU out, which is what I believe where the fault is. So let me show you what I mean. So the other day then, I was just minding my own business, out on a drive in this car, trying to enjoy it, and basically it started misfiring and shaking all over the place. So I scanned the car, of course, to try and figure out what was going on, and it came up with an internal DME fault. So that's an internal fault with the ECU, which is what we're going to be trying to fix on this car. Of course then, me being me, I've got to take the ECU out to try and diagnose what's wrong with it and see if we can actually fix it. So these here are what fail within the ECU, and we're going to be replacing these. I've tested these other ones, I'm not sure what they're for, but they're okay. Anyway, I've got the replacements here, and they should be more than good enough for the job. So then here's how I've tested them. If I put it on here and here, see there's a reading there. That means it's okay. If I go on the other ones, this one here and that one there, no reading. This is another sign as well, nothing there, so it's got no resistance inside of it. What these are then, these are basically like the drivers for the injectors, and they're called MOSFETs. You can get new ones of these online for a couple of pounds, which isn't much. What we need to do this then is a hot air gun, a pair of pliers, and solder and plug. The hot air gun is called the heat roll tipped up, so it's a more than a pair of pliers, some more plug and solder, This is actually known to be a very common problem in this generation, so it gets so even if you haven't actually got 1 2 or 1.5 items, you can put some repeats just to more
everything I do so instinctive and so
but if you're a bit lost,
every word I
figure out
move
what
so
it is.
descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patent it, being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over facts over tracks, and that spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past and the pettiness.
Now we just need to test them to make sure that they're all okay and solve the problem. Of course, when we first tested these, there were 2 of these chips that had to be wrong. So already there's been a massive improvement. Now that we've tested all of them, they all seem okay, very stable on the car. Of course, not getting to the back plate, back onto the ECU before we put it back in the car. Now the ECU's back in the car, all we need to do is put the fitting back together. Of course, if you are giving this a go, I highly recommend disconnect. Now that we've got that out of the way, we can see it's got the tray back in place. All it does is slide in, and each side is separate from it. After we've got that back in place, we can disconnect it back.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence.
There's only a couple of available bolts, each side holds this down.
That's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead of say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go.
If you haven't already, do a favour and hit that subscribe button for us.
But they're always possible. If you just believe, you could be so remarkable. Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No, I'm not giving up. No, I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top.
And sticking around 6 to 8 your bolt plugs down, all of you like me might have 4
I'm patient, but my mind, it can hardly take it. I'm chasing a dream that I've had for several ages of vacant.
And this thing is a bit of a pain, but try not to worry too much about that. Right then, so now it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Right, now I've got the ECU back in the car. Let me show you the fault codes that I've had on the car, and then we'll start it and see if it's actually fixed the issues that we've got. Let's hope for the best here. As you can see then, these were the fault codes that I had before I repaired the ECU. The main one is at the bottom, which is a dead giveaway that the MOSFETs inside the ECU have actually gone. Right, so now that the ECU is back in the car, we're pretty much ready to start it up. Much to my despair, we still had an issue even after clearing the fault stored in the ECU. This car is not running right at all, as you can probably hear. On the plus side, basically, a couple of fault codes have gone. So the ones I've had for basically the internal DME failure, they're gone now, but there might be something else at play. What I'm going to do is scan the car and hopefully I can solve this problem. It's really irritating. The other fault code is still there, so what I need to do, I need to scan the car and try and figure out what's actually going on with this thing, because right now the idle on it is all over the place and it doesn't sound right at all. But what I'm hoping is I haven't actually messed up anything on the inside of the ECU. I'm pretty sure that we should be okay. I think there's something else at play that isn't quite right here. Thankfully though, the car itself is not misfiring anymore, but the idle on it is all over the place and it's running really rough. So last time this car was pretty much running on about 3 cylinders. Okay then, so right now these are the fault codes that I've got coming up, and they don't correlate to anything I had last time. So last time I had a couple of codes, and one was 30BA and it had 3 other basically faults for cylinders and misfires. They've all gone now thankfully, but there's something else not quite right here. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to clear the fault codes and see if anything comes back. Start up. Run as good as gold now. Not quite sure the hell all of that's about. Could be because the battery or something was really flat, who knows. What's this? Oh, here we go. Although we've still got an engine fault, the fan's running overtime, which is weird. So then the fault codes that we've got is something to do with the high fuel pressure and the low fuel pressure. So we've got a fuel pressure issue. So it could be a bad fuel pressure sensor. So looking at all of this stuff here, this stuff looks okay. It said that there's a fault code for the fuel pressure sensor, so that's gone now. But there's still apparently a fault code with the fuel pressure system. Rail pressure itself though, is that in range? Let's have a look. That's weird. Look at the rail pressure jittering all over the place. Right, so I'm going to go in here and at this point then, I thought I'd done something to the inside of the ECU to damage it. So what I did, I ended up sending this ECU off to ECU testing to confirm that it was all okay. And then a couple of weeks later, ECU testing reassured me that there was nothing wrong with the ECU, but what they could try and do was do what I've done, because it was apparently a poor third party repair. I don't think it was too bad to be honest, so they did this, gave me the ECU back and confirmed that everything was okay on it. While they had the ECU, I also made sure that I checked all of the wiring, all of the connections, pin to pin and end to end on the wiring loom. With that in mind, I started to look even deeper into this, thinking, if it's not the ECU, what can it be? Right, so unfortunately, it does look like there's something else bigger at play with this car. I do think it is a high pressure fuel pump on this car that's actually failed. I'll show you then how I've come to that conclusion. There's an absolute array of things that have popped up and flagged up here that are an issue. I think the main one, of course, is at the top, which is 29F2, which is fuel high pressure system fuel pressure. So this is absent. Obviously, it's going to be absent because the car's not running at the moment. But if we go in here and we go back, and I go into the live data and see what's actually going on. So if I go on the low pressure, I can hear the pump in the boot actually priming. So if I do that, to me, that sounds like it's okay. We've got pressure here. When I've been looking at all the stuff on the scanner and I've started the car up, it's not maintaining an idle very well. And it's basically got, I think, between 5 and 6 bar like fuel pressure at the rail, which is way too low as well. And it's basically running off just the fuel pressure from the in-tank fuel pump, which is reading 5 or 6 bar. And then when I start the engine, basically, it's turning over and it's shooting up. And then as soon as it's running, it basically drops down to 5 or 6 bar again. And it kind of runs off that low pressure pump in the back. So I'm pretty sure that the high pressure fuel pump's failed in this. And it's a very common thing. So it's more than likely going to be that. And the fault code to it basically says that anyway. On here then, the rail pressure isn't hitting any more than 6 bar. And I'm pretty sure it's meant to run a lot more pressure than that. So more than likely down to the fuel pump if the sensors are both okay. And I'm getting a consistent reading off both of those. So what I'm going to have to do now then is I'm going to have to take obviously the high pressure fuel pump off and get another one, and then hopefully that should solve the issues with the car, because it's basically not putting a high enough pressure at the rail, which will obviously cause the issues that we've got. Anyway then, let's get on with it and get that pump off. Get this off then, all I've done is I've removed both of the intakes and the throttle body. Once we've got that off, all we need to do is move the wiring harness out of the way, then remove both the fuel line to the rail and from the boot. I also thought at this point it'd be a good chance to check the actual fuel pressure sensor and the wiring for it, which checked out all okay. And then removing the 3 bolts that hold the fuel pump onto the engine. I managed to source another used second-hand pump for £100, then refitting it is just the reverse of removing it. Right then, so now I've got that all back together, it's time for the moment of truth. So it looks like that's not actually the issue, because we've still got the exact same fault code and the same symptoms as last time. Annoyingly, it is what it is. I might have wrongly diagnosed the issue, but at least we can rule that off the list. So we've done the ECU, we've done the high pressure fuel pump. Now we need to dig a little bit deeper. What I'm going to try and check next then is if the injectors are faulty, and the chances of that are quite slim, but it could be that simple, because it could be as simple maybe as a leak in an injector for all I know. I highly doubt that, but I mean, we'll check it anyway and see if that's the issue. So then, to further my diagnosis on what's actually going on with this car, we've ruled the ECU out now. Okay, that's all, you know, tested and working okay. The low pressure fuel pump in the boot of the car, well, the back seat of the car, you can hear that priming up, and on the scanner it's building up enough pressure as it should be building up. But then as soon as you start the car, the high pressure fuel pump, it jumps all of its pressure up to what it should be, and it drops out straight away. So I'd say that's kind of working okay. It could have been a bad, you know, pump for all I know, but I mean, this one should be okay. It's exactly the same symptoms, so I'm going to try and rule that out. Of course, after this point, the sensors, they're okay. I've checked them, I'm getting a reading off them. But now I think the only thing left that we need to find out is if the injectors are working okay. So that's what we're going to do now. Right then, so to test the injectors, I've put them all out on the rail here. As you can see, I've disconnected them. And now what I'm going to try and do is crank the car over. And as I'm cranking it, I'm going to see if any of them are leaking. Okay then, so on the plus side, it doesn't look like any of these injectors are actually leaking. Right, so as you can see, at the end of each one of these injectors, they're really built with carbon, which, you know, is a bit strange considering it's only done a few hundred miles. What I'm going to do now then is I'm going to clean all the ends of these up and put them back in. So I've got all of them back in now, and they've gone exactly the same place they came out in. I've just also taken all the spark plugs out, all the core packs up, and cleaned them up and made sure that they're okay, just for good measure. Now, I was absolutely baffled. Then I thought it would be a good idea to check the resistance of the injectors, which came back fine. I even ended up sending them off to be tested, and they came back fine. Following that, I thought, oh, I better check the fuel pump. I checked the fuel pump, then I checked the vanos. That was okay. I thought, oh, what if it's a battery? What if it's a battery voltage? Because by this point, I kind of come to a conclusion that it's something electrical not quite right with the car. I even started looking into all sorts of things. I started looking into the lambdas. They were actually faulty. I changed them, but they didn't make a single difference at all to it. Now, this is when I thought I was really onto something. And I ended up thinking that because of the way this fuel system actually works, it's all electronic and it works with the lambdas. So I thought, oh, what if it's the upstream lambdas? So I started thinking, yeah, it's got to be the lambdas. But then, even after doing the lambdas, that didn't work either. But I still wasn't ready to give up. It even drove me to the point where I thought this issue was all down to a problem with the vanos, because the vanos is oil pressure, and that's kind of to do with the valve timing. So I was looking at every single angle that I could to try and figure out what was going on with it. So I took half the engine apart just to replace the vanos seals, and yep, you guessed it, it didn't solve a single thing. After that, I even started thinking, what about the crank sensor? Because that's going to affect the ignition timing, the fueling, everything. And that didn't solve anything either. So I started double checking absolutely every single small detail just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything. But then I had a brainwave and I thought that I'd actually figured it out. Right then, so after the absolute nightmare that I've been having with this car, as you can see, I've looked through everything. I've checked the injectors, I've checked all the wiring, I've checked the ECU. All of that stuff's okay. So the only thing that I can put all of this down to is that I've had a really bad streak of luck, and that what's actually happened is it is actually the high pressure fuel pump that's gone, but I've run into a streak of bad luck, and basically I've got two bad high pressure fuel pumps. I've ordered a new fuel pump from BMW, so then thankfully I've actually managed to get the high pressure fuel pump for £651.65. So if I'd have known I could have got one for 650 quid, I would have bought a new one in the first place. So then hopefully with a little bit of luck, put this high pressure fuel pump on the car will actually solve the issues on it. Okay, so I'm going to get it on the car now, and then hopefully with a little bit of luck, that's going to solve our issues. If not, I don't even know where to go next. Right then, so that's solved absolutely nothing on this car, and it's starting to do my head in because all the fault codes are into high pressure anyway, and that's on the fuel pump. So the only thing I can really think of now is it's going to be a fault with the electronic fuel pump module, but I've checked that it seems okay, and that's behind me on the back seat, or if it's not that, it could be the ECU, but the chances of this are quite slim, and I've tested things like the voltages are all there, I'm getting readings, stuff like that, as you've seen, so it's a bit of a weird one really. I'm kind of hoping I can get to the bottom of it, but it's really confusing right now because the only fault code I've got coming up is basically to do with the rail pressure. If not, we're of course going to have to look into that electronic fuel control module, and then if it isn't that, it's got to be the DME, so basically got to be the ECU that's at fault here. After testing the fuel pump control module again, I still couldn't find a single fault with it. I checked all the wiring multiple times. I even started to get to the point where I thought it could even be the fuse box, and even all of that and the fuses were okay. So in my mind there was only one thing that it could actually be. In the end then, after going through everything and searching everything, I put it down to it actually being a bad ECU, and the ECU testing didn't properly test this ECU, or they couldn't find a fault in it. So after this I sourced another ECU which I got off another car, and then I got this ECU coded in to this car's immobiliser. I started the car straight up and the car ran better than it ever did before. But there was one problem. This ECU was off an auto because I couldn't find one from manual, so I needed to get this coded in to make it work with an ABS ECU off a manual car. The main reason for this then is because it's a manual, the ABS unit works differently than an auto, and if it wasn't coded in properly, it would constantly have an ABS dash light on, as well as causing other issues. After confirming that it was actually the ECU, I took it to a guy who was meant to program it in as a manual and match the VIN off my car to the VIN of the ECU. He tried to do this and it actually stuffed the ECU up in the end. As you can imagine then, I wasn't very happy about this, so what I had to do after that, I had to find another ECU and then get that one matched. In the end, I found someone else who actually managed to code it in without any issues. After this and a few small teething issues trying to get the car started, it fired straight up and there were no more fault codes with it, and ever since then, it's not been an issue. Since it's been so long, ignore that. No more engine management light on, no more high pressure fuel pump fault. So she's all up and running now, problem solved, and it's been a long and painful journey. It's an absolute thing of beauty down there. A BMW, it's not got any dash faults on it. I don't know what's going on right now, but I can't complain. So after a painful few months of trying to figure this car out, in the end it was actually the ECU, and it has caused me all sorts of issues, but it is the way it is sometimes, and all I can say is I'm just so happy that I've finally been able to sort it out. And after all the stuff that we went through, the car's all fine now. Finally, we've got around to it at the end, and I think there are a lot of BMWs that suffer this issue. So if you do have this issue, don't forget to look into that ECU. Of course, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and don't forget to tap down below and hit that subscribe button for us, because we've got some really interesting stuff coming up. I'll catch you in the next video. See you in a bit, guys.